You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Cheers to everybody. And here in Austin,
Cheers.
Texas on a Saturday morning, because this is when this airs, it's 7 o'clock in
Cheers.
the morning, scotch and cigars. Today we're using
There
a
you go.
beautiful CAO and a beautiful Tullamore Dew, 18-year-old, because you know I like my scotch legal. So it's a beauty. So what can I tell you? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The bathroom
What
is
is a
down the hall to the
CAO?
right.
What is a
CA
CAO?
A CAO is the name of the company that does the Brazilian Amazon. It's just a cigar. And next week I'm going to smoke a whatchamacallit cigar. So it's a Chow Fao Fu from the El Segundo people. They're beauty. Oh,
You're smoking,
So at the
Steve.
moment,
Oh, yeah.
you're currently burning your way through the Amazon forest. Then is that what it is?
At the moment, what I'm doing is I'm taking a 2-hour mini holiday with my friends, like I would do if I was at a cigar lounge, and I'm having a scotch
Yeah.
and a cigar, talking to my buddies about what's going on in the world, not getting hysterical about it, and not throwing anybody out a four-story window, which apparently is frowned upon in some places. And there you go. So it's very nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, we're very ad hoc today because Morton hasn't jumped on yet. He's probably been eaten by a Norwegian whale or something, or he's
I hate
out
when that
fishing for
happens.
another one. You know.
Yeah, it could be fishing for
he's
a whale.
Yeah.
So I am going to pretend to be modern.
Ooh, good. This will be fun.
Right.
No.
Right. Okay. Well, you've got the old Viking beard going, so you know.
Yeah,
And the Norwegian name. That's a Norwegian
Yes,
name right there. There you go.
that's right.
Oh yeah.
The first one. The very first one, not the others.
Whatever you mean. The whatever, is that a Norwegian name?
It is. Whatever
course
is a
it is.
Norwegian name.
That's
Yes,
exactly what I
everybody
was
knows
talking
that.
about. That's whatever. That's like a
Come on.
Norwegian,
I mean, whatever.
Whatever, you know.
These British people, they just don't know.
Whatever. Well, he was before he sort of turned Viking, South African, Norwegian. He was a Brit.
That's true.
Or is a Brit.
That's
Still
very
a Brit. I don't know. Are you a dual
Yeah.
passport holder or are you? No, you
Me,
got rid of it.
yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Me.
right, there you go.
I've got all of them. I have
All
3
of them.
passports.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah.
That's right.
I do.
He's like
I wanted a fourth.
Arnold.
I wanted a 4th one, but they booted me out.
Right.
I'll give
Yeah,
you
but
a clue.
getting-
Steve
Yeah.
lives there. Yeah.
Oh, you want?
Oh, do you get a pass?
Yeah,
Do they issue passports in Texas then, or?
they do. Yes, we have an American passport. I have a Texas passport.
Yes,
Because
you do.
apparently Texas wants to succeed from the United States at some point because that's all they ever talk about. So you have to have 2. So yes, sir.
I think you mean succeed. I'm going to
That's
go
what I said. I said
succeed.
succeed. Yeah, I succeed.
I think you said succeed, but it's fine. Same thing. It's the same thing.
Secede.
Who cares?
Yes, secede.
Yeah,
Succeed.
tomatoes,
It's Texas.
tomatoes.
Whatever.
So,
English,
Yeah.
Norwegian, who cares?
Succeeds. yeah.
Fine.
So
I
today
think
in
they
the
want to
news.
succeed by seceding.
Oh, I like that. That's a little.
Yeah.
Look at you, little
There
double
you go.
entendre play on words.
Oh,
I
that's
know.
good
There
job.
you
This is
go.
good job. This is an 18+ show then, because if you're seeding everywhere, I mean,
I brought that
What
back.
can I say?
You're welcome. There's smart people in
today-
Texas, aren't there, Steve? Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's what in Texas? Texas, I will say- It's like Texas is very nice. I mean, there's parts of it that are like beautiful. Austin, the first time I was in Austin was in the early 90s, and it was still the cool hippie vibe. And when I came back in 2015, it was more corporate. Austin wants to be what Dallas is, which is a big city with really, no, not happening. And I met the guy that did the city planning from 1974 to like 1989 on a flight from LA back to Texas. I met him and his wife, lovely couple. And I said to him, I said, when you guys planned in the 70s and you're building the highways and the infrastructure for Austin, did it occur to you to make it I don't know, for like 10 million people. He said, here was our thought process in 74. We thought the most Austin would ever have is a 500,000 people. And he said, so the infrastructure is built for maybe 500,000, 750. And he says, and that's why for the people that live in Austin, I-35 downtown, it takes you 3 hours to get through it because they never thought that Austin, because it was the capital and it was a hippie town and music town, would become what it is. So they didn't do like Dallas, which was like, one day we may be huge. We have oil money and we're going to make it like super highways and this and that and blah, blah, blah. So that was why. And it was a very interesting. We talked about the whole flight from LA back to Austin. And I was just fascinated by it. I was like, he was like, we were all hippies in the 70s there. And he was like, no one thought the capital, that thing. He said, everything, they moved to Dallas or Houston, he said, no one ever thought they would come to Austin. And I was like, interesting. So today, as he told me, because of the way they built it, there's nowhere for them to go unless they're going to just build triple decker highways. When you leave Austin, heading to like San Antonio, it's tundra, right? So what they've done now, they've taken a 2-lane highway and made it into like a 8-lane highway. So that when you leave Austin, they had forethought, but Austin itself, Austin proper, no forethought. Like it's like New York City in a way. Everything they're building downtown is just going up, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, go ahead.
I don't think it's peculiar to Austin, I must say, because you've just described this entire country that I find myself in.
Right.
It was designed for about 4 million white people, and now, because they apparently, if you weren't white, you had no rights. And then, of course, now we have 60 million people of whatever description using the same infrastructure. And guess what? Stuff breaks. Because, And I don't think it's peculiar to Austin at all. In fact, Cape Town has got nowhere to go. It's a city that's stuck beside a mountain. It can't go anywhere. Right. When I lived there, I used to annoy the people because I used to joke. It was just a joke. I said, why don't we build some bridges across the harbor? Oh, I can't do that. Well, you got to do something. You got to start putting tunnels through the mountain or bridges over the harbor because, you've got a 1-lane road down the whole Western's. It is their Atlantic seaboard from Cape Town all the way down to Cape Point is just one tiny little road, and it's one of the most popular tourist spots on the planet, and it has got nowhere to go. So don't feel bad, Steve.
I don't.
I think it's just surprising that even in these days, it takes you 3 hours on your horse to get downtown Austin. I mean,
yes. My horse has my horse has 4 tires, so we're good. But no, I will. There's.
Are you not horse riding, Stephen? Is that not a thing for you?
Listen, you know why?
That's got to be a story in itself, isn't it? New Yorker on a horse.
If I'm gonna straddle something, she better be blonde. Anyway,
Wait, whoa, hold it. I want to say a couple of things. First of all, Dave, city cops, horseback.
They're on horses in New York. Yeah.
And just in defense of New York. How many dollars do we get every car?
It's finished. It's finished. He's working now for some other tourist company.
Thailand. No, Thailand.
Thailand. Thailand tourist companies he's working for now.
And I have a question.
Saving up for a visa.
Why in the US is it called horseback riding? Where else would you literally go on the horse? Everywhere else is called horse riding.
Wow.
Why? And,
if you're in Russia and you're an empress, you just hang yourself underneath it, don't you?
Would it be horse head riding, horse foot riding? Why is it horseback riding? I've always wondered about that. Because everyone else,
I guess you
horse
ride. Right here in America, it's horseback riding, well,
maybe.
But here's
maybe
what's
it's
interesting.
because the first people that were out there had more desires to do other things. Those lonely nights out on the range, other than riding. They thought, well, riding a horse probably gave them wrong ideas. So they said, well, look, you better go horseback riding, and not.
I feel like that's more to do with you, Dave, than them. I think you're revealing something.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have a fetish, David, that you haven't told us about.
It's legal. It's legal in Holland. Bestiality. So
all right then.
Wow. I hope you're joking.
No, I don't think he is.
I don't think he is. Oh dear.
No.
I don't think he's joking.
It's a good place. Stay in Austin. Don't go wherever, Dave.
Yeah.
I was going to visit. I was
Just get
going
on
to
your
visit
horse
David in
early. That's all
Holland.
I can say.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I was going to
no.
visit David. Yeah, I was going to visit David in Holland, but now what he just said, I'm a little worried. I don't think so. So you know, I think I'm going to stay and I'll just visit everything but Holland.
Yeah, I mean, nobody goes anywhere here without their Wellington boots in the back of the car. You know what I mean?
Isn't that where Lone Star is set, though? Dave? I mean, Steve? 911 Lone Star. That's set in the city of Austin. How accurate is that?
I think
you watched it.
I know the series. I have never seen it, nor have I ever seen them film here. Like in New York, when something films, like I turn the corner when we're in New York and leaving the apartment, you'll turn the corner and you'll see 47 trucks and lights. It could be, yeah.
A lot of the New York, a lot of the cop stories American cop stories are filmed in Canada.
Yeah, but it could be like what was it? Sorry, that dreadful show. What was it? CSI Miami. You remember it was filmed in LA. Remember, and they just did the establishing shots in Miami, and then of course, I mean, Miami is flat. I mean, it's just, and occasionally you would see even if there's a slight little hilltop somewhere, you go, that's LA. Done. There's no ways it's Miami.
Here was the.
And then I went online.
I remember
four new locations, Los Angeles. So yeah.
Yep, and here's the best thing. When I used to watch Miami Vice was filmed in Miami. That was like everybody knew Miami Vice was worked. But I remember as a kid watching the A-Team with George Papar, and I remember that's the one. And they had a scene where they were
never seen it.
They had a scene where they were going to land in Miami, and I remember when they landed, the plane that they showed was coming over a mountain, and I'm like, that must be a different Miami than I'm used to. So it was sort of like, at least there's got to be some flat land somewhere for you to do this. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, Holland.
Well, I think they're in the U.S. So
it's just very flat over here. Oh, Minnesota looks a lot like Holland in places. Very flat, lots of water, lots of.
Come on, gentlemen. Yes. I want to see if I can remember the A-Team. I actually did a commercial for this recently. I have to say. If you have a problem, and no one else can help find them, then maybe you can find them. Maybe you can hide the A-Team. I remember that.
There you go.
Like that.
That was right. Yeah.
It was something like it, wasn't it? Something like that.
It was like that. And they had Mr. T. They had George Papar. Yes. They had Dirk somebody or other. I can't remember his last name.
He was the face. He was the face. Benedict, his name on it.
Benedict. And then you had Schultz, who played Murdoch.
Murdoch.
Yeah. And then I think that was it. That was the four guys from the A-Team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you always had a big eye candy every week as well, just it would be in distress.
Right.
Yeah.
And they always drugged B.A. Baracus.
Yes, Mr. T, because he couldn't fly. Yes, they always drugged Mr. T. Yep.
Shut up, fool! Shut up, fool! He was my favorite character, Mr. T.
I like Mr. T, and I've heard him speak out.
There was no blood in it either, was there? It was a bloodless program.
Bloodless shootouts.
Stephen Carroll.
Stephen Cannell. He did that. He did. If I'm not mistaken, he did Rockford Files, and he did.
That was good. I quite liked the Rockford Files.
He did a lot of stuff.
He never wrote any violence. There was implied violence.
Correct.
You never saw bodies flying or blood. There was a lot of shooting and a lot of action, but you never saw anything. And I think if I remember correctly, reading somewhere, he didn't believe that was his thing. He didn't want to do that. The action was important, but the pace. You need to see dead bodies everywhere.
The same time as, was it Sam Peckinpah? Wasn't he the guy who sort of went a bit mad, making all those Western movies with lots of blood and guts?
Oh, those spaghetti westerns?
Yeah, I think he was one of the early ones to sort of, because it was, like you were saying, it was like everybody was sitting and watching. It was okay. People got shot, no blood. People died, no blood.
Right. Nowadays, nowadays, someone gets
but there
shot
was a period. There was a period after that, of course, where everything went into blood and guts, and that was like, we must have some of that.
I wonder if it's really necessary in the story, though. I always thought, do you really need to see all that? I mean,
I think it's for the
Oh,
I think it's for the shock value. I know in Saving Private Ryan it was for the authenticity. Someone going to
But
war.
everything does it now. Heads
Yeah,
getting
but
blown
yeah,
up, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a big deal
That's
now.
but
yeah.
right, but that's what I'm saying. So it's even because of the video games. I think we're becoming desensitized. So it's like now when these people do mass shootings, whether it's at a synagogue or a church or a mall or a school, I think it's between the video games and the movies. It's just like, oh, that's cool. It's like that's they've been
Yeah.
you're
They have no
desensitized
perception
about it.
of what it is.
Yeah,
You know, it's just
I
part
think
of
it's
the game.
destroying our ability to empathize.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
back in the day we
Although
we had more empathy.
they keep researching that, don't they? Keep throwing lots and lots of money at it, and nobody comes out with a definitive yes. It's frying everybody's or young people's brains, but that may be that of course that the games industry is worth more than Hollywood, and yeah, there's a lot of money to be made in games.
I've never been worried about video games. I'm incredibly worried about social media. That worries me far more than video games. I'm not honest.
I agree. In fact,
social media is. I'll tell you why. I believe there's a problem with video games, with a couple of notable exceptions. You're sitting down with the console or the kit, you can see it. It's like you're walking into a hall of fun and then you leave it. It's like a sport. You do it and then you leave. I mean, it is actually, I believe, an Olympic sport, or they want to get it in. So it's
the
activity.
Esports.
Whereas social media, it's you. It's you. It's intertwined into everything you are, and it's total BS, but it's still you. And there's where's reality? Where's BS? Where does it change? And you don't know. I think with a video game, unless you're a moron, you can see. You can see that. Look, I got a thing in my hand and I'm killing people on a TV screen. I can see it. I can see that.
Yeah.
Whereas social media, I'm not sure that those lines are that clear.
Yeah, I agree.
We watched something a couple of nights ago, which we both, when it happened, Annette and I just kind of looked at each other and thought, "Oh, wow!" And I mean, I don't, I'm too old to know about anything really, but it was Snapchat, and what I didn't know about Snapchat is that you can actually see where all the other Snapchatters are. You get this sort of map that comes up, and you can see with everybody's little figures on them. And these kids were talking about it, location thing. So these kids were looking at it and they said, "Well, these two are in the supermarket because it's just down the road, and there's a whole lot of people there. Why am I not there?" So you had this incredible, because it was all about being isolated and exercised and sent to Coventry and other things that people were done through social media, and we found that we were quite shocked, because first of all, the privacy side of it, that's gone out the window a long time ago, but the fact that these kids were continuously looking, and these were Minette told me what year group it was, but I think they were probably between 12 and 14.
Right.
2 or 3 of the girls were actually crying on the show because they said, I can't go into this group, but they're all over here on the map here, but they don't like me, so I'm not included in it. And I thought, like you're saying, Roll, that it's dangerous stuff, this social media. And I can see why they did it in the first place. They did it, thought, well, okay, it's a community, everybody's together, blah, 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 blah. But the kids are almost weaponizing it. Yeah, they're weaponizing it, in their social groups.
Let me tell you about.
Shocking.
I watched the other night because I decided to go down a rabbit hole. The Johnny Depp, Amber Heard documentaries. One's on Max and one's on Netflix. So I watched them because there was 2 different perspectives. But what they both said at the end was social media. I'm not accusing Mr. Depp of anything or Miss Heard. I don't care who won, what they did. That's their private life. But against Miss Heard, somebody had bots that would make these terrible, awful statements about her during the trial in the UK in 2020 and the trial here in 2022, talking about social media, right? So you would have 5 million people saying, "Oh, terrible things," and she's this and she's that. And it was like, wow. So to your point, social media, if you know what you're doing, you can control what people see in the outlook because it hits their algorithms. And we've discussed this before, I think, on our other shows. TikTok, if you go to China or Asia, is all about how to become doctors and lawyers and whatever.
Yes.
And in America, I'm not sure what it is in Europe, but in America, it's all about
same as in the US.
stupid stuff, right? It's just like people dancing or and UFOs are okay, but it's all this dumb stuff, and it's sort of like no benefit.
My son told me that. My 22-year-old son told me that about TikTok. He says, Dad, everywhere in the world, even here, he says, here in the UK and in South Africa and the US, it's very much about stupid crap. You know, people jumping into blocks of ice and whatever it is and dumb stuff.
Yep.
And everybody just wants to be an influencer and, I don't know, do Johnny Knoxville type things. Whereas in China, it's, you know, you want to be an astronaut or a doctor, and it inspires kids to study and read and do more, you know, useful things. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Our TikTok channel for the those are for the UFOs. Our TikTok channel, more scotch. We've got about 1,000 people that are on our TikTok, and what we do is we put our AI movies up there. We put some of the interviews up there. We put shorts up there, and it's very interesting. We get about 200 to 500 views everything we put up. Right, so we have some loyal fans. Thank you very much for everybody that's on TikTok, and it's not the normal crap. It really is like if you're even on our Instagram, if you watch two old farts making noises on any of our social media, we have some funny, cute shorts. We have this, we have that, but we also put 5 to 8 minute things out there. And on our social media, people actually watch it. Like we'll look at the view time. Like David will put out an AI movie, and we post it all over. And an 8 minute AI movie, people will watch 7.5 minutes of it on TikTok or on Instagram, which I found fascinating. So when you sign up for Two Old Farts, you realize we're not going to always just put out 30-second shorts. We're actually putting out, like even when we put out Vaguely News, when you send us the news, right? We put that on all our social media. People watch the full 3 minutes and 50 seconds of it. So I'm finding that you can control it to an extent. I mean, we don't get 1 million views on it because people don't want to spend 3 minutes, which I'm fascinated that they think that they're going to find out life's questions in 20 seconds. But that's also why people don't read, because no one wants to sit down with a book and spend an hour or two. Like at least 3 or 4 times a week, I will sit down with a book, shut everything off, and read for an hour or two. And I'm just like, I don't care. My phone is turned upside down because it's on silent anyway. I don't see anything. My laptop and iPads are off. I mean, if I'm outside, I have a cigar and I read my book, or if I'm in the office, I sit in the chair and I just read. And then after an hour or two, I go back to the world. But it's sort of what people don't do that anymore. People just want to like, give me the crib notes, give me quick, give me this, give me that. And I think that's dumbing down the planet.
One of the other things which was deeply disturbing, there was a gentleman, he must have been in his mid-20s, and by his own admission, he was obese. And he was obese. Right. But he said, I am. He said, I'm fat. And he's online all the time. And he just makes little skits of music and talks about everything that comes along. And there are people now, trolls, who are encouraging people to go and bang on his front door and try and get him out of the house. They've put graffiti all over his mother's grave because he posted that his mother had died quite recently. And wow. This is all criminal activity. And he just said, well, and all I'm doing is just posting this stuff on my YouTube channel, because,
we should have. Of
course, but that's probably a very good idea. And the other thing was, he said, of course, then, and I'm accused of being a paedophile as well, which seems to be the default place to go these days.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the whole thing, the social thing, is making people very, very substanceless, very shallow. Because as you say, you got to get it all within 20 seconds. It's instant gratification.
Yeah.
And I do think what I like about books, why I think it's a pity that more people don't read, is when you read, it's almost like certain things just switch up on your brain. It's almost like a mental spa, which I think nobody does anymore. And if you never read, this is the thing. It's not some highfalutin intellectual crap. People think, I don't read. It's too much effort. You almost have to, because if you don't read, you're constantly just getting hit by a barrage of media stuff all the time. Social media, this, news, that, TikTok, this, Instagram, that, little pieces. You're getting this fragmented. It's like you're in a wind tunnel, and you're just getting hit by these fragments of BS all the time, and you're never going out of that. Just taking a breather, relaxing, reading a book that takes you into some faraway place. You never do that, so your brain gets tired, it gets angry, it starts looking for things like putting graffiti on graves and banging on people's doors because your life has no meaning. And I don't know, that's why for me the reading thing is a real problem. The lack of reading. You know, as this Lee Child chap who I told you I was doing his course a while ago, he said you don't necessarily have to read something good. Even if you read something bad, then you go, I don't like that. That doesn't work for me. But you need that variety. But you need to read. You need to turn your brain off. Just take a mental breather. But I don't think people do that. They want to just, I'm doing this. I'm eating this. I'm looking at this. What's someone else doing? Where are they? God, it's just tiring thinking about it.
I think there's a lot of it. You see a lot of people that they just feel that they have to know what's happening there and then, and if they don't, they're out of the loop. And that was a really, really disturbing thing about these kids as well. They were saying, you know, like it's one girl, she liked to sing, and her mum said, well, you know, record it, put on TikTok, and then you've got something, you know, to show to your friends, whatever. And then, of course, it went viral, but it went viral in a poisonous way, to the point that she was like almost going to start cutting herself through all the anxieties that it brought her, just because there's a, you know, 14, 15-year-old kid who just wanted to sing a song that she'd written. You know, it's shocking stuff, you know, and I don't have any answers to it. I'm just commenting on it.
Were we better as a society before social media, or are we better as a society now? I mean, because there is some value to social media. I mean, you do learn, like, there are things that I actually will watch on, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. That's really cool. I can learn something, and it's I can get information, but or is it detrimental? And it's very interesting.
I think there's always been something, you know. I mean, when newspapers were mass produced, you know, at the end of the 19th century, you could buy, you know, every week you could buy your Dickens edition, and every week part of the story, and that was all tittle tattle as well,
right?
You know, so and it was something, but the thing about it was it was slightly more focused in respect that you had a really high chance that everybody else would have seen it. And now one of the advantages and disadvantages of having social media is you may be in the loop with a group, with your peer group, because you're watching what they're watching, or you may find yourself all of a sudden being ostracized because you've gone down your own particular rabbit hole, because the social media has allowed you to do that, and you have nothing, you have no contribution. Well, you're a bit weird. Why are you doing that? You know, why are you watching cooking programs? Was you weird or something? You know. And I think that's where where we're at the moment. This huge fork in the road, and added to that, a generation of kids that we locked up for 2 years is not really helping. I mean, that's a ticking time bomb, in my opinion.
I don't know what the solution is. I would say you probably, if you go back through history, you probably find there were new things that came out, and people were worried about the new things that were coming out. And that's probably what we're doing for millennia. I do think, and it's easy to blame the social media things, and it's easy to blame everything else, but I do think, and this is one thing I do believe, is I think we've forgotten how to be parents. That's what I think we've forgotten how to be. I think we don't, I mean, how many people do you know that
how can you be a parent?
Let me just say, Dave, hang on. How many people do you know raise their children and teach them how to be parents? No one does that. They don't teach them that. They don't impart that. And there's this.
Well, how did you learn then? How did you learn to be a parent?
Trial and error, mate.
I jokingly said that when my son was born, I looked for the instructions, but they weren't there. You know, so
Dave, it wasn't. I don't know. I mean, I'm not using myself.
Sorry, Ross, but I was just because I agree with you, but what I can't understand is if if we think that one of the problem to the solution is better parentage, right? Parental.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Then where do all those instructions come from? Where have we lost that ability to do that? I mean, I see people walking around with kids, and I think, well, I wouldn't do it that way. But you can't go down and say to people, that's not the way to deal with it.
So the real question, I may ask, so your real question is, when did we become such crappy parents? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, or where did we lose the... Yeah, what did we lose? Did we lose a book or a...
Well, okay, let me answer that. I think the answer to it is, well, first of all, I think the world is just a bunch of bad parents right now. That's what I think. That's my opinion. It's not a fact. That's what I feel. I see the way.
Yeah, well, I have to agree with that.
And I think, and the way I say that is, I'm not saying they're bad people, but when you question why people have kids, because they can't actually give you a good reason. Getting married is one thing. Having kids, for me, my wife and I, was almost like a business decision. It's a very practical thing. As Bill Cosby said once, you have these things and you don't realize they're going to be with you forever. People, I don't think they take being a parent seriously enough. I'm not having a go at them. Maybe they weren't raised right. Maybe their parents are rubbish. But we always look for someone to blame. And I'm not really blaming anyone, but I think as the world has become smaller, and it's become a lot smaller, and we've had a lot more contact with all sorts of people, and we've thrown off laws from the past. We've said, oh, that was wrong, that's wrong. We've kind of tossed things out. This person's got to have rights. That thing is wrong. That history is wrong. We've tossed a lot of things out. Right. We feel that's how we growing. That's wrong. Look at those tyrants, those kings that killed those people, the Crusades, whatever. And we've grown by throwing things out, but I'm not sure we've taken anything back. So we've believed, and I had this conversation with someone yesterday about the situation in this country where apartheid was removed, quite rightly so, very rightly so. But the problem with, and I'm getting just back to what I know, the problem is that here, apartheid was very much linked to the government, which was linked to the police, which was linked to the legal system. So when apartheid went, the whole lot went, and nothing was built back. So you had this element of lawlessness because for a lot of people, and I don't disagree with them, the law was very much a tool of oppression. That's what they saw it as. This is what they grew up with. If anybody hasn't seen the movie Sarafina, you should watch it because it gives you an idea of where South Africa was in the 70s and what we got out of. And you can understand why people thought the police were a problem, why the government was a problem. Now, relating that to the entire world, I think every country around the world has had periods of transformation. There have been changes. There have been changes in government, societies, and not too dissimilar to what we've had here. But when that change comes, there's a responsibility to replace with better. And I'm not sure we've done that. We've just said our parents were wrong. But what about the stuff they did right? No, they were just wrong. We've thrown that all out. And maybe in that process, we threw out the manual. You asked where the manual was. Somewhere in there was a manual how to be a parent, and we just threw it out with all the other trash. That's just my theory.
I think that's a very valid argument that in our desire to not to make the mistakes that we've probably felt that our parents made, that then you just didn't do anything that they did.
Yeah.
And so you had no basis to build on. I mean, the amount of kids that you see who are a bit noisy somewhere, and all of a sudden, they've either got what I always jokingly call the volume control. So they put a dummy in their mouth to keep them quiet, and if they still doesn't quieten them down, they stick a smartphone in their hands. So I think, okay, Well,
that's true. At restaurants, I see a lot of kids on their little iPad screens watching a movie. Like when I was a kid at a restaurant, I was taught how to behave, and that's not how you behave with an iPad. But that's why when you go to dinner and you see all these people on their phones, they're not talking, right? And I'm like, that's crazy. You're not having dialogue. But I think part of it is, though, when I was growing up, there was more family union. So my grandparents lived 20 minutes away. My nana and pop lived 20 minutes away. So when you were with them, it was old school. Like, you dressed for dinner. You did this, you did that. But they also taught you how to be, for like my cousins, the girls, they taught them how to be ladies. They taught the boys how to be gentlemen. And with my stepson, when I first met him, he was a little ragamuffin. And now he's a young man that's learning to be a gentleman. He knows how to be respectful. Like his mom will yell at him about something. I'm like, yeah, but that's not how you do it. So I'm like, here's how you get the car door. Here's what you do. And it's like, you have to actually teach them. So when it comes to parenting, you actually have to teach your child something, right?
And you can't be
iPad. Yeah. And so he sees me when we're at dinner, whether it's at the house or at a restaurant, and my wife gets up from the table, I stand up. When she comes back to the table, I stand up. He does the same. He gets his chair now when we're at dinner for his mom. Before, he never did that. Before, he would just jump in the car. I'm like, why aren't you getting the door for your mother? And when he's not around, I get the door for his mother. And I'm like, you have to be a gentleman. And even his grandmother said to me, she goes, since you've been in his life, he's changed 180. And I think that's a good thing. But I come from the very much old school. And I think part of the reason is between women's lib and between the internet and social and all of this, people are leaving parenting to, I have no clue. Like the movies, the iPad. Like I said, we're at dinner the other night, and this little kid must have been 2 years old, making a ruckus. And what did mom do? She pulled out the iPad and stuck the cartoon in front of the kid. And I'm thinking, okay, that's great. Your kid's now quiet. But when they're 25 years old, they still don't know manners at a restaurant. Like when I was growing up, we knew manners at a restaurant at a young age. Like my parents would take me out to dinner when I was 3, 4, 5. And, you didn't cry. You had to learn. And we're not teaching the kids to learn. We're just teaching everything's okay.
I got to give you a story, and I'm not going to mention names in case the people I know watch this podcast. But it's such a good story. It highlights a lot of what you're talking about. So they have a child, let's say, who is of a small frame. I'm not going to mention it's a boy or girl because I could get in trouble here, but their child has a small frame. But let's just say they are very generous with the way they feed their child, and they cater to everything their child wants, and they give them everything they want. And that relates to food, to toys, to iPad, you name it. So they get everything they want because their thing is they want to be their child's friend. They don't want to do what their parents did to them. They don't want to suffer that trauma. So everything goes. They're going to be their child's friend. They're going to give them what they want. They don't want to allow their child to experience the hardships they experienced, and they did go through something. So they've gone the complete opposite. It's all just it's hedonism on crack, and everything this child wants they get, with the result that this child now has health issues, big health issues. But the mother will say, she will stand there and say to you, doesn't my child look gorgeous? Don't they look great? Don't they look fantastic? And we all know, all the adults in the room know that's BS, but no one is going to say, listen, lady, your kid is a big hero 6, for God's sake. Get some eyes. No, I don't want to offend my kid. Now, that's an extreme example, but I think to some extent, this is what they don't want to take the hard knocks that parenting gives you. When you discipline your child, you almost have to be a leader. You have to lead. You have to, if you don't want your kid to be on one of these, then put it down. Put your phone down. You see these parents in restaurants, they're on phones. So what are the kids going to do? They're going to be on phones too. You can't sit there and go, hey, put your phone down. And the reason why the kids are doing it is because the parents are doing it. You learn from your parents. It's not what your parents say, it's what they do. And this is what people are doing. They're behaving in this way. And now you have kids. Because what is your role model? How do you learn language? How do you learn how to behave? The first people you come across are your parents. How do they speak? How do they act? and that's what they're doing. And maybe the parents, as I said, they don't want to offend their kids. They don't want to. What was the old thing? Children should be seen and not heard. That's how I was raised.
Yeah, no, I had.
Oh my God!
Sit down.
No, what are you doing? Yeah.
For me, it was sit down, sit up, and shut up.
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
But
And that's what we told David at every
cool.
meeting, by the way. So it works out well. So it's we just try to help him relive his childhood.
No, my father was ex-military, so you had an opportunity to speak. It's not that we couldn't speak, but you were given an opportunity to speak. You weren't going to chat your way all the way through a meal. That's just not how it was. That was disrespectful.
Have any of you ever been? Sorry, I just have to say, have any of you ever been in a situation where you're with friends and their child approaches the table and starts talking to them and they're gone? They're just gone. Dave. Johnny comes over and we're here, and you telling a story, or you saying this happened to me, and they're gone. And I don't know about you, maybe my social circle needs some work, but this happens so often to me, and I look at my wife and I go,
and it bugs the fuck out of me. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is where we're different.
Adults are talking. I'll be with you in a sec. We don't do that. People don't do that. They go,
oh no, I do. And whether it's our stepson or whether it's another kid, if we're talking at dinner, and some kid goes, Mom, I'll look at their kid. I'll go, wait a second, and they'll look at me, and I'm like, teach your kids some manners. And and my wife will be like, they're never gonna. And I literally say, I don't give a fuck if they want to be our friends or not. Their kid needs to learn manners, and if I have to police the whole fucking state, I don't care. But they need to learn manners. We're speaking, and it's funny. I saw a T-shirt the other day. It says when you get to a certain age, which mine apparently was 20, you say what's on your mind. My mom used to say to me, you have to have a filter, and she said that to me since I'm like 6. And I never have had one. And I will tell if someone's kid, even at the dog park, if someone's screwing up with their dog, I'll look at them and go, hey, what the fuck? Take care of you. And they'll look at me, and everybody at the dog park is like, holy shit. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. You're not going to be my friend. I don't give a shit if you're my friend or not. Take care of your fucking dog. Yeah. And people are like, holy shit. So I have no filter. I have never had one, nor do I care if I have one, because I don't need 50 new best friends. I need 3 to 5 close friends that say, I get it. One of my ex-partners used to say, a company we had, used to say, Steven is a different cup of tea. And he says, he's not everybody's cup of tea. He says, but if you understand what he does, then he's your cup of tea. And it took him, when we first met, he hated me. And it took him almost 6 months where he realized what I was doing. Feeling. And then, but then what happened was when he left, when we sold the company, we all went on to do our things. He did another company. And we hooked up with we all went to dinner in March, and he said to me, he says, everything I learned, I did at this new company, I took all the stuff that you did at the other company and I brought it over. And I said, and how'd that work out for you? And I know what he sold his company for. And I said, it worked out pretty good, didn't it? He goes, yeah. He goes, but in the first 6 months, he was saying, I hated you. I go, I know, everybody did. He said, because you held people accountable. You would be their parent. And their guy's older than me, and I was acting as their parent. And he said, you didn't take any shit. I go, dude, I said, this is it. So kids today, I told my stepson, I'm not trying to replace your mom or your dad. I am not that, right? You have your mom or you have your dad. I'm your stepfather or your stepdad. I'm here to teach you what I know. You take it or leave it. I do not care. I said that if you learn it, then when you're an adult, you'll be appreciative of it. If not, you'll be a slug. And that's it. I stop kids.
I think a filter is a lie. I'm not patronizing you. I think a filter is a lie. You don't have to be a shit about it, but if someone is saying something dumb or their child looks like a hippopotamus, I think you should say something. I do. I have no problem if someone says that to me, because if you're a proper man, and I mean this in every way possible, if you are a grown-ass man who's a proper man, the moment someone says something like that to you, without all the vitriol, they say, Stevie, blah, 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 you'll know it's true. You know it's true. Of course you know it's true. Yep. If you're not being an idiot, you go, okay. Or get some self-awareness. But a proper friend is is and must call you out in your BS, because
Yes.
I promise you, the other 100 people in the room, they want to say, they know it, but they're not going to say it to you.
Yeah.
You want someone to say that to you. You need that.
It's a continuous battle, isn't it?
Shit, man.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
I'm a bit like Steve as well. Unfortunately, my mouth works quicker than my brain. So
right.
You know, but I think that's probably one of the reasons why when I first met Stephen that we both clicked, because there's there's no BS in between. Just say it as it is. And I agree with you, Rold. You know, if you can't give it, then if you can't take it, you can't give it. So
correct.
You know.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you a tangible example. This is a very graphic example, but it's a metaphor for what I'm trying to say. You've got a mate. He's standing up on the stage. He's giving a presentation, and he walks out to the front, and he wants to be close to the audience, the very important audience. He's doing a sales pitch, and he's engaging with the audience. And you're sitting near the back, because you just want to, you're near the back. But from the back, you can see that his fly is open and his doodah is hanging out, and he's not aware of it. Now, what I'm trying to say is, a friend stands up and says, "Hey, Dave, your fly is open." You must say that, because he's going to spend the next 50 minutes with his willy waving in the wind, and no one will hear a word he has to say.
Yeah.
Well, I think a true friend would come along and tuck it in for him, but
no, there'll be an uncomfortable moment. He'll zip it up, and it'll be a bit of a laugh. But the rest of the presentation, people will hear, because it's his moment.
Yeah.
So that's
or he has to change the subject to today we're going to talk about elephants. I mean, there are ways around it.
Yeah. But you must do that. Yeah. I actually would say it's
but isn't that the thing that the wonderful thing about kids is they, if you've got a huge zit in the middle of your head, they're going to come and say, "Oh, you've got a huge zit in the middle of your head."
Not anymore. Not anymore. They don't do that for some reason. Yeah, the kids today, for some reason, they're so. Listen, here's the problem with kids today.
Wow.
Yeah, whatever you say, that's the problem. They don't look at anything other than their phones. Like when I see kids playing, I actually have a little smile, because I'm like, oh wow, old school. Like I said to my stepson, why don't you get some kids in the neighborhood and play stickball? What's stickball? What do you mean, what's stickball? When I was in New York, we played stickball every day. You use the cars, the manhole covers, right? But they don't know stickball. They don't know kick the can. They know nothing. All they know is gaming. I'm like, go outside, get some color, exercise. Woo, leave my computer? Yeah, leave your computer.
Yeah, leave your computer, or go outside and be molested by the local pedophiles. Honestly, I mean, there is just this absolute fear to let your kids out.
Yes.
I mean, my mother would have to chain me in to keep me in the house.
There was a lady
in my room when I locked me in my room because I do something that couldn't be done, and I climb out the window.
There's a lady on Instagram, and she talks about when we were kids, and we're all about the same age. David's much older. He dinosaurs on before the earth cooled. But there's a thing when we were kids, and it's true. In America, at 10 o'clock at night, they would say on television, "It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?" And you know why they would say that? Because our parents would tell us to go out and play, and then we wouldn't come home until they would tell us to come home because we were too busy playing. And at 10 o'clock, they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I should probably go get the kids if they haven't been here for dinner, bed, or school." Oh, yeah, that's right. So it was different. Yeah. It's like we would go and play. When I would come home from school, I had to do my homework. That's what we all did. We did our homework. And by 5:30, 6 o'clock, we were all out playing until 8 or 9 or 10. Then you'd come home, you took your bath or your shower, you went to bed, you went to school, and you did that every day. And then on Saturday, after Scooby-Doo and all the cartoons, at 10 o'clock in the morning, we were all outside playing all day. Whether it was winter, when it was summer, it could be raining, you could be having Godzilla eating your town, you were out playing. And that was it. And you did sleepovers and you rode your bike. And I don't see any of that. And I think, once again, part of it's social media.
Oh, you can see it. You can see it, but you have to watch Disney Channel or something, some Mary Poppins movie.
I have to watch the Andy
Griffin
Show.
How you cheaper.
The Andy Griffin Show from 1960s is what I have to watch, I think, to see that.
Andy Williams
So,
show. I remember that. What's what the
no,
what's
Andy
the,
Griffith.
with the,
Andy Griffith, not
Andy
Andy
Griffith.
Williams. But Andy Williams had a good show
the
too.
skating bear.
The
He had,
Skating
didn't he?
Bear. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was one of
I don't
the.
know.
We watched a lot of that. A lot of, shall we say, slightly bizarre television shows because they were in color. And then when we
Yes.
first had color TVs, of course, that was be. Oh, watch that because it's in color.
But you have to also remember when we all were growing up, we had in America, you had ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. That was it.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
we
all
were
of a
jealous
sudden,
because we only had two stations when I grew up. You know,
it's a
like
different.
4 or 5. Wow, come on!
And I'm
Party
happy now
time.
that we have all this technology, and I think it's great because for work and for social media and whatever. But it really does go to if you have a child, be a parent. And if you're going to let your kid on social media, like we don't let our stepson on social media. Like he doesn't get to watch YouTube. He doesn't get to watch Instagram. None of it. He's 12. He's 13. He's not allowed to do anything, even though by Jewish law, he's a man, but he's not Jewish. So he's one of the Gentiles. So he's not a man until he's like 70. So he has to do nothing. And my wife jokes with me. She says, if we ever had a daughter, I go, if we had a daughter, my daughter would be in a chastity belt until she's 70. And she'd be in like Rapunzel and a tower, and she's not going anywhere. You know, and it's sort of like there's no etiquette classes anymore. There's no this, there's no that. And I'm shocked that the parents of today are like, they don't care. I mean, I'm sure they care in their own way, but they just don't care. And it's sort of like I'm shocked by it. And then teachers too.
There's a song Robbie Williams does, Let Me Entertain You. And there's a line in that song where he says, you're not going to end up like your mom and dad.
Right.
And that to me is the issue. I think, I mean, even if I look at my situation, there were a lot of stupid things my dad did, a lot of stupid things my mom did. I mean, I've done some stupid things, but they did some really good things as well. Now, if I was just to judge them, look at me judging my parents based on the idiotic things they did, I don't know where, I wouldn't know what to do. I learned a lot from them, even though they were separated and they patched me off to boarding school and I saw them. There was still some semblance, strangely enough, of a father and a mother. Not as much as it could have been, because Dave said, how did you figure it out? Trial and error. Being a parent is trial and error. I would say, and this is a very kumbaya moment, if you love your kids and you make time for them and you want kids, you'll figure it out. That's the only thing I would say, and it's not a one size fits all. But I think the big problem with parents is I'm not even sure A, if they want kids, and B, once they get them, they don't know what to do with them because they said, why have we got them? And what use are they to us? What is the benefit? Because maybe there's a selfish quality to their lives. I don't know what it is, but they don't want to take the knocks. And being a parent, I mean, we all know a lot of it is heartache. You say things to your kids, you can't do this, you can't do that. I hate you. And years later they go, geez, Dad, thank God, you know, but actually my kids have been pretty good. I mean, I'm a little biased. They've been good, but there've been moments where you discipline them and you don't want to do it, but you know you have to, because if you don't prepare them when they leave your house and they take that BS with them to wherever, the problems are going to be myriad. There's going to be far more, because as you said earlier, you were saying you call your stepson out, you're teaching him things, but what you also doing is when he leaves the house and goes out there, people are going to go, God, what a nice guy, because of the skills that he's learned from you. And you don't have to be his friend. A father doesn't necessarily have to be his kid's friend. He has to be his father. There's a big difference. Big difference. You can't be mates. I mean, people may disagree with me, but you can't be mates with your kids. That's weird. They're not your mates. They are your children, and you are so much more than their friends. You are their mother and your father. But it's almost like people want to be their friends with their children. That's BS. It doesn't work.
You have a whole load of people. They think, well, I don't have kids. I should have them because other people have got them and I haven't.
Why?
So
why?
It's almost like an accessory.
Yes, and they treat them like an accessory.
Yeah.
Kids
And
are
so
good
therefore,
for one thing. They're tax deductions. So I always look at if I was ever going to have a child of my own, it would be a tax deduction, and I would name them
you can adopt me. You can
appropriately.
adopt me if you like, Stephen.
I'm going to adopt you and roll, but your tax deduction number 1 and your tax deduction number 2, that is your name until you're 18 or 25, whenever the IRS says I can't deduct you anymore. And then whatever name we gave you at birth, other than tax deduction, put your number here, then that is your name. And that's how I look at children. My stepson, since he's not my tax deduction, then I am his stepfather. I want to say I'm not his friend. We do think, but my job is to teach you to be a man, is to teach you manners,
and how to fill in his tax returns, by the sound of it.
And anything past that, if we'll play chess together and we'll do other things together, then that's when we're being not mates, not friends. We're doing like whatever we're doing together. But I don't look at you until you're like
Social
21 years old.
That's what it is.
There you go. I don't look at you until you're 21 as my friend, because by then you are an adult. And until 21, I am your parent. And that's how I look at it. And that's why, going back to what you said, whether it's a dog or a kid, if I see something I don't like and you're even an acquaintance of mine, I don't care if I lose you as my acquaintance, because really I don't give a shit. I will call you out full stop, because at the end of the day, it makes my life easier and better. And and my wife will cringe sometimes. She goes, "You can't say that." I go, "Yes, I can, because I don't care."
I just did.
Because
yeah, you just say it's too late. I just did. Yeah,
it's too late. But at the end of the day, if more people were honest and blunt about things, the world would be a better place. And stop with this sugarcoating, namby-pamby. I don't care that I hurt your feelings. I want to hurt your feelings. I want you to think about it. I say something to my stepson sometimes. You can see on his faces. Yeah.
Steve, I don't know, once said, I think it might have been Ricky Gervais, one of those people said, "I can't hurt your feelings, Steve. You are hurt by, that's your prerogative. I don't hurt your feelings. You allow me. I can say whatever I want. For you to be offended, I can't offend you. You are offended by me. That's your problem.
That's right.
That is your, and all I can say is that if you stop people, and we've had this conversation before, but I'm going to bring it up again. If you stop people from being honest, saying what they really want, no matter what it is, even if you disagree with it, they're still going to think it, and it's still going to exist. But if they're allowed to say, listen to me, if people say what they feel, if I say, guys, look at that, the sky is red, you're both going to say, bullshit, it's blue. You can call me out on it. However, if I think in my mind that if I say the sky is red, you guys are going to crap on me, I'm not going to say it. But I'm still thinking it. And there's no way for you to check the bullshit that's in my head. And that applies to everything. People are thinking these things. Let them get them out there. Let them say it. Get it out there. And we can see, I disagree with people all the time. They disagree with me. We need to learn how to disagree with each other. And that's what that's something we don't know how to do. I mean, I can still be your mate and disagree with you.
Yeah, have a dialogue.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm just gonna stop the show and have done with it. So
wait, before you stop the show, I'm gonna teach you one important thing. Because I taught this to my stepson. Let me just 2 minutes, then you can stop the show. My stepson one day said the teacher told him sticks and stones will break your bones and names will hurt you. And he said that to me once when I picked him up at school, and I looked at him and I went, "What? Oh, fuck?" And I said, "You go back tomorrow and you tell your teacher, that little pussy motherfucker, that sticks and stones will break your bones and names will never hurt me." And my mom taught me that, because kids used to make fun of me when I was a kid, and I'd be like, "That's not," and she goes, and she taught me that, and it stuck with me. So now what somebody says to me, I'm like, okay, that's your opinion. I mean, I like it. I'll take it in. And if it's something I can correct, cool. If it's something that you just don't like about me, I don't give a shit. But when he told me that, I went ballistic. And I was like, you go back and tell your teacher she's a pussy. Like, I'm not allowed to in his little private school, because I'll offend everybody, go to parent-teacher night, because I will tell the teachers where to go. Yes, sir, go down the hall to the left.
One final thing before Dave ends the show. And I'm going to pick up on Steve said. Back in the heyday, I don't know if you ever see a movie called, I think it's called Private Parts. Talk about the life of Howard Stern. He spoke about, at one point they were upset with what he was doing, and he said, "I've got 3 million listeners. 1 million of them like me, and 2 million of them hate me."
Yep. There you go.
Which is good. Yeah, more people that hate you. It's still 3 million people. They're talking about you.
Everybody,
okay.
Don't forget to subscribe.
just
don't forget to like. Don't forget to put down your comments below. Also, we'll be back in a fortnight. Look it up if you're in America, because I know you don't understand what that means. The rest of the planet, a fortnight, you know what it is.
Well, they do.
We'll
It's a
see you
game.
next
It's a game,
in a
Steve.
fortnight on
It's a
Saturday.
game.
Yeah, it's not the game. It's when we'll be back.
Okay.
So,
And
but everybody,
just,
thank you
just
for joining and listening.
And just for the good, just for the sake of keeping things in balance, I was banned from the PTA as well. All right. Bye bye.